And Vics works in what's called the Consumer Insight Division. Now, this is fairly new to publishing, but it's something other industries have done for a long time, which is she speaks to people who buy books and speaks to the customers and tries to give them a voice in the whole publishing process. And we'll hear how that works later on. But I think what we need to find out from Vics is who buys best-selling books, what sort of people buy them, and who are we writing for? So, you know, she will be able to bestow her wisdom upon us. Vics, thank you so much for taking the time to see us today. I know how incredibly busy you are. Now, you work in the Orion Publishing Group's you're their Consumer Insight Manager. What is Consumer Insight?
Well, put quite simply, basically it just ensures that the voice of the consumer is put in the heart of the publishing process. So it means that we're going out with the right message, the right product to the right consumer at the right time. So it's really looking at consumer data, but also industry data to make sure ultimately we sell as many books as possible.
So you actually go out there and you speak to real people.
We do speak to real people. We do large surveys, but we also do focus groups and get people in the office as well, which is really, really valuable.
And this is quite a new thing.
Not new to me, but certainly new to publishing.
It is, yeah.
So the department was set up 3 years ago in Hachette, so we've been running for that time.
Because just to give you some idea, Mark, we'd sit in meetings talking about books that we were looking to acquire that maybe aren't selling as well as we thought they might, and we'd say, well, we think this fiction is the sort of thing that, I don't know, women in their 30s might read. And we'd all shrug and go, yeah, I guess so. Let's do that. And then it doesn't work for whatever reason. Because, I mean, partly, publishing is predominantly very white, it's very middle class. It's a lot of the same people sitting in the room. So no wonder we were getting it wrong. And part of the joy of seeing Vics join Orion is seeing her astonished face in some of the meetings at some of the decisions we've made. So, but now you've been gathering information for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, as we set out on this quest to somehow create a bestseller, can you tell us who buys books?
Well, the answer to that question is a lot of people buy books. Our research shows that 4 in 5 people will have bought a book in the last year, which is absolutely huge. They might be buying one book, but they might be buying lots of books, but 4 in 5 have bought a book. What's interesting, though, is when you look at that group of people and sort of break it down by demographics, there aren't actually that many differences. Slightly more female, which perhaps we'd expect to be higher, and sort of no difference by age. What is really different, though, is when you look at the passion for reading, and that does differ by those sort of basic demographics that you were talking about. So slightly more female, and passion does seem to increase as you get older. But that's pretty big, right? So we're looking at females, older females. That is a huge, huge number of people. So we try to then break that down and define the market further so you can be much more specific about what you're targeting.
So, okay, well, that's encouraging. 2 of us are blokes, Mark. We need to write for females.
It's a good start.
There's a lot of men that write books. It just needs to be slightly higher amongst females in terms of passion for reading.
Okay.
Sorry, Vics, I was going to say, I'm really interested in that word you used, passion. So when you talk about passion, how do you define it? You're not talking about romance novels.
No. So on the survey, we looked at people. We asked the question, how passionate are you about reading? And we took those top people up at the end of the scale that said they were really passionate about books. But I think what's also really interesting is whether you break the market down by genre as well. So we've done some research looking into the key genres, and actually crime and thriller comes out as the sort of genre that people are reading most. So about a third say they've read a crime or thriller book in the last year, and there's a big chunk of fans within that market. And then as you go down, you've got also the sort of science fiction and fantasy, but they're much lower in terms of the proportion of people that read them. And that's reflected in sales as well. When you look at the overall sales for the print market, there's much higher sales for the crime, thriller and mystery sort of class that we look at, as well as sort of more general literary fiction as well that's out there.
It's interesting because the last few years, bestsellers have been dominated by books like Gone Girl, Girl on the Train. I think having the word girl certainly will help us. Yeah. I mean, it's there's definitely a pattern emerging here.
But I think if you're looking at titles, I think what's quite important there is a title that's easy to remember. I mean, it sounds really simple, but as your average Joe consumer, if you want to tell your friend about it, which is one of the key ways in which people find out about books, you need to be able to remember that title. So Gone Girl, Girl on the Train, they all are quite sort of simple, easy to remember titles.
They also kind of sell the concept as well, don't they?
Absolutely.
Girl on the train, witnesses a murder.
Yeah.
Gone girl, girl is gone. I mean, she did it in 2 words.
Girl with a tattoo.
Yeah, girl with a
girl
dragon
with an earring.
tattoo. Yeah.
I mean, we could maybe go down that route. What's really interesting, Vic? So you're talking about the kind of the passion of people reading. I mean, if you're actually looking to write a bestseller, is it important to be getting those passionate people in terms of longevity of career? Because I'm guessing if you've got someone who's passionate about you as an author, then you're likely to be able to sell more books in the long run. Is that right?
I mean, I think one of the ways to sort of get that traction and to gain momentum for an author is to start at the core. Think about who those key influencers are, those uber passionate people, the sort of book pioneers, the people that are looking for information before you even know what the information is. They're looking for anything on books. They are following their favourite authors. They're talking about their favourite authors. They're on social media. They're writing blogs about books. And those influencers are absolutely key, because those are the people that are then going to talk to perhaps the passionate readers, not the ones that discover it. They haven't got time to discover the book, but they want a trusted source to get information on the next book to read, to add to their list. And I think one of the biggest issues as publishers that we have to overcome is how people discover books. And still, the main way in which people find out about books is word of mouth. So having those influencers talk about it, being picked up by then the passionate readers that are reading a lot of books anyway, who tend to be the sort of female 35 and maybe up to 45 readers.
So we were right.
I don't know. I think having looked at the last few big sellers over the last few years, the Gone Girls, the Girl on the Train, the Elizabeth is Missing, having a look at the audiences for them, it does seem to be that they're the sort of under 35 female reader. And there's got to be something in that with those bestsellers.
Very true. Very true.
Interesting. So what does make a bestseller, Vics?
Well, I did have a look at those, some of the key titles for the last few years, and try to sort of unpick what sort of was similar about all of them. And we've talked about the title and the sort of the thrillers of Gone Girl, Girl on the Train. That sort of domestic thriller clearly is trending at the moment. Whether that's set to continue, I don't know. But it seems to reflect TV as well. If you think about Broadchurch, Dr. Foster as well, it's that sort of almost it could happen to you kind of crime. It's not like the big serial killers where you think, well, that's never going to happen to me. But okay, most people don't fake their own murder or stalk their ex-husband, but it's the sort of thing that you can imagine happening to someone potentially. And I think there is something in all of those titles that it just feels that they are sort of more like real life. I think the other thing with those titles as well, though, is the twist and the suspense in them. If you want to recommend a book, if you want to get that word of mouth recommendation, having a twist like that is a brilliant sell, isn't it? You don't have to tell them about it, but you say, yeah, there's something in that book that you'll just love. And it almost doesn't matter what genre it is.
It's almost, we've seen with the new Harry Potter play, the whole thing has been sold on keep the secret. And we saw that with Gone Girl as well. It's a book where people would talk about the initial premise, but without giving anything away, something happens right in the middle of it, which is just jaw-dropping. And people were pressing copies into their friends' hands, saying exactly, you have to read this.
Yeah.
It's almost like they want to then be able to share the secret with them once they've read it, and that's almost the attraction of bringing them into the club. But I know something you don't, but once you know it, we can have a good gossip about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to remember is there's a huge group of readers that read 1 or 2 books a year. Now, they want that book to be excellent. They're investing their time, their money in it. It's a big investment for a lot of people. So they want to know that it's going to be a really, really good page-turner type book that they can take on holiday with them. And it's those passionate readers that are going to recommend that one book. So you need your book to be that one book that those passionate readers are going to recommend to those holiday readers, basically, and there is a lot of those.
Well, so far this sounds really, really easy.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah. All we need is a catchy title, a word of mouth success, and a big twist in the middle. This series will be like 3 or 4 episodes long, you know. I jest.
Well, we've got to somehow work the